By 1966, Emmanuel was a 104-bed, ultra-modern facility, up and running at full tilt. There were no vacancies at the Emmanuel Nursing Home, only a waiting list. It was in 1966 that business manager Steve Braze accepted a position in Nebraska, which would bring L.D. Hillman as administrator. Mr. Hillman would serve the residents and staff at Emmanuel with energy and vision. His 14 years of service from 1967 to 1981 are years that set the high standard of care the residents enjoy yet to this day. Administrators Mark Hopland, Tim Middendorf, and Janet Green share in this legacy of leadership. 1967, it was a year of firsts. In 1967, Emmanuel was one of the 4 facilities in western Minnesota that was approved for the extended care program under Medicare. Not only was the physical plant a modern-day wonder, but Emmanuel strove to be financially capable of supporting its mission by meeting national and state criteria for assistance in giving care to those in need. An important and intrinsic part of Emmanuel has always been volunteers. Pastor Elmer Johnson said, "Modern facilities still need sympathetic interest and assistance. The home will stand in need of goodwill, our means, our interest, our faith, and our prayers." Volunteers in the Lakes Country took his words to heart. The Senior Citizen Center, operated by Mahoobie Community Council, began an activity workshop at Emmanuel. There were opportunities for woodworking, weaving, ceramics, bingo, movies, and other group activities. Residents were given many opportunities to be engaged in an activity or to be socially active. In 1968, the first volunteer appreciation banquet was held. 54 volunteers were honored for their work. They provided barbering, shampooing, finger waving, sewing, mending, letter writing, visiting, game playing, and furnishing rides. The ever-popular Tuesday Bingo? It's always been. It was the women volunteers of Trinity Lutheran Church that set the stage, and by 1967, Trinity had enlisted other area churches to provide volunteers to call the numbers and help the residents with the cards. Someone donated 2 quilting frames, and the women residents of Emmanuel spent many an hour cutting, sewing, and tying quilts. A loom was provided, and both men and women of Emmanuel kept the handiwork of weaving rugs alive on that loom. The last rug to be made was made by Harm Gertis in 1995. In 1967, Emmanuel held its first annual picnic. Over the years, the annual summer picnic has endured rainstorms, wind, sunshine without mercy, and an occasional perfect day. For many years, the men at Trinity managed the grills to provide hamburgers and hot dogs. The entire community would be invited. Food, music, and activities. What a great day. In 1964, nurse aide Bonnie Jacobson then told me she earned 85 cents an hour. That was the wage in 1964. Well, wages did continue to rise over the years. In 1971, housekeeper Joyce Priam was working for $1.65 an hour. And another mile marker that happened in the 1970s was those housekeepers, they were allowed to wear slacks. Since its inception, Emmanuel has always provided spiritual care for the residents. The first chaplains were also the pastors at Trinity Lutheran Church. They provided daily devotions, weekly worship, Bible study, and they offered their presence in visiting. In 1967, Pastor Malm set up a chaplaincy program that brought in special programs and other churches for worship. It was in 1986 that Pastor Arv Halverson became the first on-site chaplain at Emmanuel. During his ministry, the chapel and the connecting walkway from the nursing home to Lamplighter was built. Pastor Arv served until 1994, when Pastor Roger Domian came on board. It was in September of 1995 that Chaplain Vicki Marthaler, that's me, began her tenure that will span 19 years as Spiritual Care Coordinator for the residents and staff of now Ecumen Detroit Lakes. Ecumen Detroit Lakes, it has a long history of expansion and updating its facilities and services in order to meet the need of the community. Emmanuel was soon more than just a nursing home. It became a campus when, in 1973, Lamplighter Manor, a HUD 65 apartment complex for seniors and the disabled, was built. The nursing home, then in 1979, added another 40-bed addition. One wing was then dedicated to memory care, and the staff received specialized training in the care of those with Alzheimer's and other dementing illnesses. Ecumen Detroit Lakes Adult Day Service continues to be the only adult day service in the area. Sandy Leah was its first program manager in 1989. She recruited and shaped a staff to not only care for, but to invigorate those in her charge. Most recent remodelings have not added residents, but provided for better care of the present residents. Double rooms have been transformed into private rooms to better care with honor and dignity. The Madison apartment building was completed and opened for residents in 2008. At the Madison, residents range from living independently to receiving a full range of services. Home health services came into being in order to care for those in their home wherever they choose to live, and that is the mission statement of Ecumen Detroit Lakes. Ecumen Detroit Lakes has a long history of supporting many different kinds of therapy. The 50-year history is peppered with music therapy, pet therapy, gardening therapy, as well as its exceptional occupational and physical therapy. There were many articles and pictures devoted to pet therapy. Coco was a resident bird for over 20 years. Bird aviaries and fish aquariums have both had their season, and there was even a resident cockatoo named Jack that would perch on shoulders and serve as a day brightener. Visiting pets included dogs, sheep, mini horses, rabbits, and litters of puppies. Now, in 2014, Ecumen Detroit Lakes looks again to have an open house that will herald the new age of therapy and holistic care for residents in this community. In 1964, there wasn't a computer in sight. Now, even the nursing assistants carry a computer to chart information on residents. Yes, some changes are significant, but there are some things that will never change. The kitchen on the Ecumen Detroit Lakes campus still cooks homemade soups and bakes homemade cookies and bread. The housekeepers still clean and spruce up the rooms of the residents, though carpet has long replaced the institutional tiled floors. The average age of the resident has risen from 73 to 86. The majority of the residents today need more comprehensive care, and this has required activities to be adapted as well. The quilt rack and the loom have been replaced with range of motion exercise programs and sensory stimulating music, art, and social activities. Oh, the paperwork, insurances, state and national government requirements, yes, they've grown over the 50 years. But social workers and the business office staff will still continue to benefit the residents and their families greatly by helping them navigate through all the red tape. The dedicated laundry crew, they still wash the clothes and the towels and the sheets and even the stuffed animals that are donated for bingo prizes. The years have been many, but the mission remains the same. As it was said so well in 1963, the community committed part of their weekly paychecks to a facility they might not use, but their neighbor might need it. It had to be ready. Emmanuel, now Ecumen Detroit Lakes, is ready. It's ready to serve the neighbor for the next 50 years.